This video is about another new world religion and to our thesis, a branch of Christianity that only could have begun in the New World here in the United States of America because of the separation between the church and the state, the government and the affairs of religion. We've discussed the Mormons, and as we move on through the 19th century, about the mid-1850s, there's an explosion of Christian denominations around something called the Millerite movement. You see there in the word Millerite, you see the antecedent there, or the root of the word millennium, 1,000-year. The idea was that Christ's 1,000-year reign must almost be up, and Christ's return is imminent. There's all kinds of religions that start to say this because, you see, imagine life in America in the 1850s. How could it get any better? This was the land flowing with milk and honey. The government was literally giving land away. There was gold in their hills in California. This new land now had been developed with railroads. There was 4 seasons. There was citrus crops. There was grain crops. You could raise your cattle. It was beautiful weather on the prairie, etc. This was the land of milk and honey. Civilization had arrived. The only thing left was for Jesus to come again. The Millerite movements, all kinds of Christian groups started to preach the imminent return of Jesus Christ. All of the great things that were happening were the apogee to Christ's trumpet sounding. Hark, I hear the chariot thunder of the wheels coming now. Okay? You get it. One of these people was Charles Miller, who had been a Presbyterian minister, and he predicted a couple of things as he broke from the Presbyterian Church to start a new group. One, he predicted that Jesus Christ was going to return based on his reading of Scripture between 1843 and 1844, based on the way he had read Daniel 6. So the other thing that he declared as he read the Bible in a true manner, as he said, is that, if I can explain this briefly, when the Christian calendar changed from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar, okay, and then you remember that's on about the time when they figured out that it doesn't take us 365 days to go around the sun, but 365 and a quarter. And so to readjust the calendar, we lost those 11 days, even as the Orthodox Church still stays on the Julian calendar. Okay. Long story short, in the midst of all of that, said Reverend Miller, a mistake was made in that the church Easter was truly on what we call Saturday, not what we call Sunday. So the first day of the week, in actuality, is Saturday. So his group started to worship on the true first day of the week, according to them, which is Saturday. And now you understand the name of the group we're talking about, Seventh-day Adventist Church. Just look at the title, Seventh Day, because they worship on Saturdays. And then their Sunday is a secular day, like we might, for those of you who worship on Sunday, their Sunday is like our Saturday. That's when they go to the dry cleaners and do groceries and wash the car and mow the lawn, okay? Saturday is their holy Sabbath day. Seventh-day Adventist. Advent means waiting, right? So they were waiting for the imminent return of Christ that was going to come in 1843, 1844. Well, as you might guess, that didn't happen. The group pretty much disbanded, as did most Millerite movements at the time, but it was picked up then by the next generation, Seventh-day Adventists, by Joseph Bates and Ellen White, who claimed to have the gift of prophecy. So they kept the movement going. It continues to go to this day. Seventh-day Adventists, great people. The way they read their Bible, they worship on Saturday, and their accent is always on the imminent return of Christ, still to this day. You know, I always say that Christian denominations, it's all under one umbrella, Christianity, but, you know, each denomination kind of speaks in its own accent. So, like if you go to Korean Christians, their accent is prayer. They are just huge into prayer. Great idea. I mean, but the Korean, they would be up every day at 5 o'clock going to church to pray. Their accent on the Christian life falls on prayer. If you go to a Reformed church, there the accent will be on the sovereignty of God, that we're all held in the cradle of God's grace. Okay, that's the accent with which they speak. And now to today's point, the Seventh-day Adventists, their accent, their contribution to the umbrella of Christianity is always to remind Christians that Jesus Christ is coming again and his return is imminent. In brief, that's the theology and history of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Now, something fun happens. Remember the time span? And Jim and Ellen White were originally, I believe, the second generation from Battle Creek, Michigan, though then they moved to Maryland, but they started a presence in Battle Creek, Michigan, where at that time now, we're in the Industrial Revolution, there just so happened to be a man by the name of John Kellogg, who becomes a convert to Seventh-day Adventists. In his day job, John Kellogg is capitalizing on this whole new Victorian health movement of colonics. If you remember, watch The Road to Wellville, that movie. The Victorians, there was a fad, a craze, whatever you want to call it, where they said that the bacteria inside us, inside of our colon, limits our health. The only way to stay healthy is to always cleanse, right? So these day spas, just watch the movie. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty. But John Kellogg said, and I have invented a cereal, a fiber cereal, a food that if you eat every morning will help that cleansing, right? And he made $1 gazillion. His competitor was across town, Mr. Post. If you drive through Battle Creek today, you can smell it in the air as they are preparing those wonderful cereals. Okay, so one of the first converts to Seventh-day Adventism was a wealthy man by the name of John Kellogg, who was into this holistic health. As a contributor, he also then helped guide this denomination into holistic health. My understanding is that this was not initially a theological statement of Reverend Miller or the Whites, but it happened historically because of the involvement of Mr. Kellogg. So today, if you do your church visit to a Seventh-day Adventist church, you will go to their church on a Saturday. You will hear undoubtedly some message sermon about Christ's return is imminent. Don't buy green bananas. Okay, you might not have time to ripen. Hark, I hear the chariot thunder wheels. Okay, that's their gift to Christianity, to always remind Christians of that. And I almost guarantee that afterwards, if they say to you, would you want to stay for our adult education sessions? You say, sure. What are they meeting to talk about outside of church? There'll be some class, I guarantee you, of something like, you know, the value of breast milk over formula, cloth versus disposable diapers, how to start a paleo diet, the benefits of being a vegetarian, something holistic, okay? And that's great, not knocking it. Just understand historically where that comes from. I find it a fascinating connection. Okay, so that's Seventh-day Adventist. Only could have happened here in the New World, and it did, and they're still with us. And look at the handout, review the major terms that we just defined, understand what they believe as part of their official theology, and what they also teach as kind of an accidental gift of history with the involvement early on of Mr. Kellogg. We'll be back next to talk about the last of the Christian denominations I'll introduce to you in the New World, and that is the Jehovah's Witnesses.